The message came without warning, a pulse of energy that rippled through every satellite and relay across the Sol system. Every screen on Earth flickered at once, every signal jammed, until only one voice remained, a cold, alien tone echoing through the void. "This is the Galactic Union," it said. "Humanity must surrender within 24 hours, or face complete extermination." In the great chamber of the United Earth Council, silence followed the words. Leaders, generals, scientists all stood frozen, their faces pale, their hearts racing. The message played again, this time with images. A fleet of thousands of alien ships, massive, shining, armed with weapons that could melt mountains. The aliens called themselves the protectors of order, but to Earth they were executioners with polished smiles. Admiral Hayes sat in the shadows of the council chamber, watching the broadcast carefully. He was old now, his hair silver, his eyes sharp as a blade. He had seen war before, but this felt different. The aliens did not want peace, they wanted obedience. And they believed humanity was weak enough to give it. A diplomat spoke, voice trembling. "We cannot win against such numbers," another whispered. "We should negotiate." But Hayes said nothing. He simply looked up at the hologram of the alien fleet and smiled faintly. He knew something the others didn't, because while the galaxy watched Earth, Earth was watching back far above the planet. Hidden beyond the dark side of the moon, something vast waited in silence. Not one ship, not 10, but hundreds. Their black hulls absorbing light, invisible to alien scanners. They were the Terran Defense Fleet, humanity's greatest secret, built in the shadows for years. Every ship carried a name of Earth's past. Yamato, Ark Royal, Enterprise, Kyber, Defiance, ships that represented humanity's unbroken will. Down below, the alien message spread across the networks. Cities froze in fear. Children cried as their parents stared at the sky. News anchors tried to stay calm, but even their voices shook. Everyone knew what extermination meant. They had seen alien wars before, how the Union burned entire worlds to ash. In orbit, Admiral Hayes walked through the command deck of the Erebus, the flagship of the Terran fleet, through the wide windows. He could see the dark curve of Earth below, blue and fragile. "Status?" he asked quietly. "Fleet operational," replied Captain Mira. "All systems in stealth mode, weapons charged, waiting for your command." Hayes nodded slowly, his hand resting on the cold metal of the console. "Let them finish their speech," he said. "Then we'll show them what Earth has been preparing for." Back on Earth, the Galactic Union envoy appeared again on the broadcast. A tall creature with silver skin and burning yellow eyes, he spoke with the calm cruelty of a god. "You were given knowledge, protection, and warning," he said. "But you chose defiance. Surrender now, and you may live under our rule." His words echoed through billions of homes, but somewhere in the stars, human captains clenched their fists, refusing to bow. Hayes's voice came over the fleet's private channel. "All units, this is Admiral Hayes," he said quietly. "The galaxy believes we are helpless. They think our skies are empty. They think we are alone." He looked out at the endless black, his reflection staring back at him. "They are wrong," he said. "They demanded surrender, but they will find our answer waiting above their own worlds." The countdown continued. 20 hours left. The alien fleet moved closer, their engines glowing red like angry suns. They believed humanity would send a white flag. Instead, humanity was preparing a storm. In the deep silence of space, one by one, human warships activated. Engines hummed softly. Reactor cores came to life. Invisible light rippled around their hulls as stealth fields shimmered like mist. Every pilot, every soldier, every engineer knew the risk. They might not survive this battle, but they would make sure the galaxy never forgot who the humans were. Admiral Hayes watched as the fleet's data screens filled with red dots, the alien armada approaching. He closed his eyes for a moment, then whispered, "History will remember this day." Then he turned to his crew. "Prepare to decloak on my signal," he said, voice steady, eyes burning with resolve. "Let them give their ultimatum," he added softly. "And when they do, answer with silence." Outside, the stars remained still, but in their light, unseen giants waited above Earth's skies. The Terran fleet was already there, silent, ready, and unseen by those who demanded their surrender. The galaxy thought humanity would kneel, but humanity was already standing, waiting to strike. The darkness beyond Jupiter was quiet. Too quiet. No radio chatter, no light from engines, only the endless stars blinking like old memories. Out there, hidden between frozen moons and drifting rocks, floated the greatest secret in human history, the Terran Shadow Fleet, humanity's invisible sword for years. Earth had played weak before the galaxy. Diplomats spoke of peace, colonies acted small, and the media told stories of fear. But behind the silence, engineers and soldiers worked without rest. They built ships that broke every law of known physics. They forged weapons that could pierce the skin of a planet. They called it Project Aegis, and not even most world leaders knew it existed. Each ship was a world of its own. Massive dreadnoughts with black armor that drank starlight, engines that ran on dark matter cores, reactors that could power cities. Their hulls carried old names from Earth's past: Independence, Vigilant, St. George, Shaheen, Titan, Spear. Every name whispered defiance, every name a promise. Admiral Hayes walked along the long corridor of the flagship Erebus. Crew members stood at attention as he passed. Silent but proud, he stopped by the viewing deck, the stars stretching forever before him. "Status of the outer rings?" he asked, his voice calm. Captain Mira's reply came through the comms. "Outer formation ready, stealth field stable. Enemy scanners blind," Hayes nodded. "Good," he said softly. "Let them think we are still sleeping." Far ahead, the alien armada crept closer to the solar system. They believed humanity was a child to be corrected, not an enemy to be feared. Their ships moved like gleaming blades through the void. They laughed in their channels. Mocking the silence of Earth, one captain said proudly. "They will surrender before we even reach orbit," another replied. "Humans always talk big, but they always kneel." But deep inside the Terran fleet, something ancient and dangerous stirred. Human pilots sat ready in their chairs, helmets on, eyes focused. Each one knew what was coming. No one spoke, because words were useless now. They had trained for this day for years, and now it was time. A soft chime echoed through Erebus. "Fleet sync complete," said the AI voice. "Weapons hot. Stealth integrity 99%. Hayes exhaled slowly, his old heart beating steady. "Send coded message to all captains," he said. Code phrase Iron Sky. A few seconds later, deep inside every Terran ship, a small red light blinked alive. Commanders read the code silently, and one by one they smiled. It was time to wake the fleet. On the far side of Neptune, a scout ship floated in silence. It watched the alien fleet's movements, tracking their formation. "Contact in 12 hours, the scout's pilot whispered. "They're coming straight for Earth." He paused, then smiled to himself. They have no idea what waits for them. Meanwhile, inside the alien command vessel Orethos, the Supreme Marshal of the Union observed the empty human skies. "Still no defense fleet detected," his officer reported. "Earth's orbit remains unguarded." The Marshal's eyes glowed with pride. "As expected," he said. "Primitive species lack the will to fight." He didn't know that thousands of human weapons were locked on his fleet. He didn't know that his scanners were blind. Fooled by technology even the Union didn't understand. In the shadow between worlds, the Erebus slowly turned its bow toward the sun. Admiral Hayes stood in the center of the command deck, hands clasped behind his back. He watched as holographic maps displayed the alien approach, a red wave slowly covering the solar system. "We've waited long enough," he said quietly. "Let them come closer." "Then we rise, sir?" asked Captain Mira. "Do we reveal ourselves now?" Hayes shook his head. "Not yet," he said. "They still believe the lie, and that belief will destroy them." Across the fleet, human soldiers checked their suits. Pilots powered their engines. Every system pulsed with energy, but no light escaped. The stars around them seemed normal, empty, peaceful. But that peace was an illusion, a storm hidden inside stillness. Back on Earth, the alien message replayed again and again on every channel. "This is your final warning," said the cold alien voice. But in orbit, Admiral Hayes smiled once more. "They think they're warning us," he said quietly. "But they've already walked into our trap." He turned to his officers, eyes sharp. "Tell all ships to hold position," he said. "When they reach the orbit of Mars, drop the veil." Captain Mira nodded. "And then, sir?" Hayes's voice grew colder. "Then we remind the galaxy why humans should never be underestimated." Outside, the darkness of space shifted slightly. A faint shimmer rippled across the black like waves on invisible water. Hidden shapes began to glow for a heartbeat, then vanished again. The Shadow Fleet waited, silent, patient, unstoppable, and as the alien armada closed in, thinking they were alone, the hunters had already surrounded them unseen. Humanity was no longer the prey. They were the storm waiting to strike. The alien fleet reached the orbit of Mars, their silver ships burning like cold suns. Thousands of vessels moved in formation, engines humming in perfect rhythm. To them, it was already victory. They believed Earth was defenseless, unarmed, broken. They expected a message of surrender, a cry for mercy. But what they received instead was silence. Inside the command ship, Orethos, the supreme marshal of the Galactic Union, stood before a massive display. The planet Earth filled the screen. Blue, small, fragile. "Open the channel to the humans," he ordered, voice proud and cold. "Let them speak their final words." The broadcast went out across the system. Every colony, every city, every station received it, and billions watched in fear. The alien envoy appeared again. Tall, metallic, eyes like fire. "Humans of Earth," he said, "your time is over. You had your chance to surrender peacefully. Now you face your extinction." He raised his hand as if offering mercy. "Kneel, and we will make your death swift." The world waited. Holding its breath, no one moved, no one spoke. Even the air felt heavy. But then the screens flickered. The alien image broke apart like glass, and another voice replaced it, calm, deep, unmistakably human. "This is Earth," the voice said, slow and steady. "And we do not kneel." The galaxy froze. Every monitor across the Union played the same signal. From the great citadels of alien emperors to the mining colonies at the edge of the stars, everyone heard it. The human voice carried power not from arrogance, but from something stronger, defiance. The alien marshal turned sharply. "Where did that signal come from?" He shouted. "Source unknown," replied his officer, panicked. "It's coming from everywhere." Static filled the air. Then the human voice returned, clearer now. "You think we are children playing with fire," it said. "But we learned from the stars long before you came." The marshal's claws dug into the console. "Jam that transmission," he roared. But his command came too late. Above Earth, space itself began to shimmer, like a curtain being pulled back. Shapes started to appear. Where moments ago there had been only darkness, sensors across the alien fleet screamed warnings. Unknown mass detected. Gravitational distortion, multiple signatures. One alien officer gasped, "It's..." Ships, massive ships, and then they saw them. The Terran fleet slowly decloaked, hundreds of black giants emerging from the void. Their hulls gleamed under sunlight, marked with ancient human flags. Each one armed, each one alive, each one ready. The silence broke as human systems came online, engines igniting like blue fire. Every alien captain watching knew in that moment they had made a terrible mistake. On the Erebus, Admiral Hayes stood calm, hands behind his back, eyes on the screen. He listened to the chaos on the alien channels. "Sir, they've spotted us," said Captain Mira. "Orders?" Hayes smiled faintly. "Let them see what they came for," he said. "Activate wideband." A new signal cut through the galaxy. Hayes's voice filled every ship, every world. "You told us to surrender," he said. "But humanity does not surrender. Not to tyrants, not to empires. Not to anyone." He paused for a breath. "You stand before the descendants of every survivor, every rebel, every dreamer who refused to die quietly." On the alien flagship, the marshal could only stare. His officers shouted reports. "They outnumber us in orbit. Their ships are different, energy readings off the scale." He slammed his fist against the console. "This is impossible," he hissed. "How did they build this in secret?" No one answered because every sensor screamed one truth. The humans had already won the sky. Hayes looked toward Earth through the viewing glass. The planet shimmered below like a jewel. He spoke softly to his crew. "They demanded our surrender," he said, "so we gave them a message instead." Captain Mira smiled. "A message they'll never forget." Then Hayes gave the order that would change the galaxy forever. "Power up all dreadnoughts," he said. "Prepare for engagement." The fleet responded as one, 1,000 voices echoing through comms. Powering up. "Sir." "Weapons ready, shields holding steady." Outside, the black warships glowed faintly as their systems awoke. Engines whispered to life, cannons aligned. Targeting systems locked on. The alien fleet panicked. "This cannot be," one shouted. "They were supposed to be primitive." Another screamed. "Their ships are appearing everywhere." But the humans said nothing more. Their silence was louder than any threat. As the first light of dawn reached the curve of Earth, Admiral Hayes gave a quiet command. "Begin," he said. Let the galaxy hear our answer. And the stars themselves seemed to tremble. For in that moment humanity had spoken, not with words but with power. The voice of defiance had become the roar of war. The silence before battle was heavier than gravity itself. Every soldier in orbit felt it pressing down on their chest. A weight made of fear and pride across the command deck of the Erebus. The only sound was the steady rhythm of machines breathing in unison. Admiral Hayes stood tall, hands behind his back, eyes fixed on the holographic map of the solar system. Red icons marked the alien fleet, a tide of destruction moving closer. Blue lights marked humanity's hidden armada, waiting like sleeping giants. "Sir," said Captain Mira, voice steady. "Enemy ships are in Mars orbit range." Hayes gave a small nod, his face unreadable. "Then it's time," he whispered. "Open the skies." The command rippled across every human warship. Stealth fields shimmered, then peeled away like melting glass one by one. Massive black dreadnoughts appeared from the darkness, the void filled with the hum of energy, the light of reactors blooming like stars being born. For the first time in history, the galaxy saw the full power of Earth. Hundreds of Terran ships forming a wall of fire and steel around their homeworld. On the alien flagship Orithos, chaos erupted. "Impossible," shouted one officer. "Those ships weren't there seconds ago." "They came from nowhere," screamed another. "Our scanners didn't detect even their drive signatures." The Supreme Marshal stared at the screen, his silver skin flickering in the light. He felt something he had never felt before. Fear. Back on the Erebus, Admiral Hayes raised his hand. "All units," he said. "Defensive grid Alpha, Formation 12. Prepare counter-fire," pilots confirmed. Captains echoed his command. The human fleet moved like a single living creature, vast and graceful. Every dreadnought turned its cannons toward the invading fleet. Missile bays opened, railguns charged, plasma coils glowed bright blue. Hayes's voice was calm, almost quiet. "They wanted to see our strength," he said. "Let's show them," the alien commander shouted orders, desperate to regain control. "Fire at will," he barked. "Erase them before they attack." Thousands of alien weapons lit up at once. Energy beams lanced through space, bright ribbons cutting across the dark. The first barrage hit the Terran formation and vanished. The beams bent away, deflected by invisible fields. "Shields holding at 98%, said Captain Mira. Hayes smiled faintly. "As expected," he replied. Then came the human reply, a single word spoken through the fleet channel. "Fire." And the sky exploded. From the Erebus's broadside, 12 massive cannons released blinding blue lances. The nearest alien cruiser disintegrated instantly, its hull torn open like paper across the field. Terran missiles streaked forward, guided by artificial minds. Each one split into smaller warheads mid-flight, weaving through the chaos with perfect precision. Dozens of alien ships vanished in silent bursts of fire. The sound of war filled the void, not through air, but through the trembling hearts of every living being watching. Within minutes, the alien formation shattered. "Fall back," screamed their captains. "They're cutting through us." "No retreat," roared the Marshal. "We are the Union, we do not run." But his words meant nothing now. His glorious fleet was turning to dust. Inside the Erebus, the crew watched the destruction unfold in quiet awe. "Multiple hostiles destroyed," said the tactical officer. "More incoming from Sector 9. Hayes nodded. "Redirect power to the right flank. Keep pressure steady." Outside, the second wave of Terran ships entered the fray. Frigates darted between dreadnoughts like sparks, intercepting incoming missiles. Fighter squadrons launched in perfect arcs. Human pilots flying with machine-like precision from orbit. Earth's night sky lit up with flashes brighter than lightning. People across the planet looked up, some in terror, others in tears. They had been told humanity was powerless. But above their skies, their defenders fought back with fury. The alien Marshal leaned over the console, watching his fleet burn. "How can this be?" he muttered. "We are the masters of the stars." A voice from his comm replied, broken and trembling. "Not anymore, sir." He looked again at the massive Terran ships, their hulls glowing red with heat, their guns roaring, and for the first time, the Great Union realized that the humans were not just fighting for victory, they were fighting for survival, and that made them unstoppable. Admiral Hayes stood motionless as the battle raged, every explosion reflected in his cold blue eyes. "Report," he said softly. Enemy losses at 60%, replied Mira. They're breaking formation, Hayes nodded. Then they've already lost, he turned to his crew. Voice steady. This is not revenge, he said. This is justice. Outside the window, another alien ship broke apart, its wreckage scattering across the void. Humanity had opened the skies, and the galaxy would never look at them the same way again. The battle had reached Earth's orbit. The airless void burned with fire brighter than any dawn. Alien wrecks drifted like ghosts, their twisted hulls glowing red. Torn apart by human guns, yet the fight was far from over. The Union still had thousands of ships still firing. Still refusing to believe they were losing, the space around the planet became a storm of light and metal, a war unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Inside the Erebus, alarms rang. Red lights flashed across the command deck. Port shields at 70%, shouted an officer. We're taking heavy fire from Sector 4, Captain Mira barked orders. Her voice sharp. Redirect auxiliary power. Launch countermeasures. Admiral Hayes stood calm in the chaos, his eyes never leaving the holographic map of the orbit. He saw not just a battle, but a test. The moment humanity proved what they were truly made of. Across the fleet, human captains fought like ancient warriors reborn. The dreadnought Independence rammed an alien destroyer head-on, breaking it in two. The frigate Falcon's cry shielded a crippled medical ship. Intercepting fire meant for civilians, every pilot, every marine, fought with one shared thought: Earth must never fall. Even the smallest corvettes flew like burning arrows, striking deep and vanishing into wreckage. The alien commander's voice filled the open channels. Desperate and furious, why do you resist? He shouted. You are nothing compared to us. But his words only made human hearts burn hotter. A young pilot named Leon laughed through the comms. Then why are you running? She said, her fighter diving through enemy fire. Her plasma bolts cut across a cruiser's bridge, and for a moment the entire alien formation faltered. Back on the Erebus, Hayes gave a single order, his voice steady as stone. Deploy the Archons, he said. The room went silent. Even Mira turned slowly, eyes wide. Sir, the Archons are still in testing, she warned. Hayes shook his head. They were built for this moment. From deep inside the Terran fleet, 10 massive ships broke formation, each one shaped like a blade, coated in dark armor that shimmered like a living shadow. They were Earth's final defense, the Archon-class dreadnoughts, weapons born from forbidden technology, each one powered by artificial intelligence older than the war itself, each one capable of wiping a fleet from existence. Archon units online, said a mechanical voice through the channel. Target priority? Hayes answered simply. Everything that isn't human. The Archons moved, not like ships but like predators. They vanished from sensors, reappearing behind enemy lines. Beams of white energy sliced through the void, tearing apart cruisers before they could even react. The alien fleet broke apart in panic, captains screaming over each other, retreat, retreat. Their weapons bent space itself. But there was nowhere left to run. For every alien ship destroyed, 10 more fell in seconds. Human weapons painted the dark with blue fire. Missiles streaked through debris fields. Railguns fired at the speed of thought. The aliens had come to make humanity kneel. Now they were the ones begging their gods for mercy. On Earth's surface, people gathered under open skies, watching streaks of light flash across the stars. To them it looked like the heavens were at war. Children pointed, soldiers on leave saluted, and old veterans wept, knowing the Terran fleet had finally returned inside the Orithos. The alien marshal slammed his clawed hand against the screen. No, this cannot happen. Destroy their flagship, he shouted. Dozens of alien battleships turned their guns toward the Erebus. Missiles, plasma, and lasers rained toward it like the fury of suns. But Hayes did not move. He simply said, activate the Aegis wall. Around the Erebus, a glowing sphere of light expanded outward. The enemy fire hit it and dissolved into nothing. The crew gasped as their instruments showed 0 damage. Hayes's calm voice filled the comms. Did they really think we came unprepared? Then he gave the final order. All Archon units, full discharge. 10 beams of light crossed the void, merging into one colossal wave of energy. It hit the alien fleet like a hammer of gods. Every ship within its path burned away, leaving only silence behind. When the light faded, the stars returned. Half the alien armada was gone, the rest scattered in fear. Enemy retreat detected, said Mira, breathless. They're running. Sir? Hayes looked out at Earth through the wide viewing glass. They wanted us to surrender, he said softly. But they forgot who we are. The fleet began to regroup, engines glowing softly in the dark. Humanity had defended its home and in doing so, had announced something to the universe. They were no longer the frightened newcomers to the stars. They were warriors, survivors, dreamers, and they were here to stay. The battlefield was quiet now. Only the soft crackle of burning wrecks floated through the void. Alien ships that once glowed with pride now drifted as broken shells, their lights fading into cold dust. The galaxy's most feared armada had fallen in the space above a single blue world, and it fell to silence inside the alien flagship Arithos. Panic echoed through every hall. Officers ran from station to station, screens blinking red, voices trembling. Engines offline, one shouted. Shields collapsed. Reactor unstable. The Supreme Marshal stared at the ruins of his fleet, his hands shaking. How could this be, he thought. How could a young species destroy the Union's might? Across the battlefield, the Terran fleet moved with silent precision. Search drones spread out. Rescue craft scanned for survivors, not to enslave them, but to save them. Because humans had come to fight for life, not for dominion. And that was something the Union could never understand. On the bridge of the Erebus, Admiral Hayes stood among his crew. The lights were dim, the air thick with exhaust and smoke, but his voice remained steady. Status, he asked quietly. Enemy fleet 75% destroyed. Remaining forces in full retreat, reported Captain Mira. Hayes nodded, his eyes narrow as he watched the holographic map glow blue with victory. They believed they were gods, he said softly. But they've bled like mortals, out in the debris field. One last alien battleship fired a final shot. The beam cut through the darkness, striking the side of a Terran frigate. The human crew didn't run. They held their positions, returning fire until the enemy fell. Then the frigate's captain saluted the fallen foe. A gesture of respect even in war. Humans remembered honor. The alien marshal watched his world crumble on the screens. He could no longer hide behind his title. His face was pale, his voice shaking. They will hunt us now, he whispered. They will seek revenge. But his second-in-command answered slowly. No, Marshal, they are not like us. Moments later, his ship's bridge filled with light. A transmission appeared. The image of Admiral Hayes flickered before them, his expression calm and stern. This battle is over, Hayes said. Your people will not be erased, but your empire is finished. The Marshal tried to speak, but Hayes continued, his words cutting through the noise like steel. For centuries you ruled through fear. You called yourselves protectors, but you were predators. He leaned closer to the screen, his voice quiet yet unmistakably powerful. Humanity does not bow to predators. The alien marshal lowered his head, his hands trembling. In that moment he saw what his species had never understood. The humans did not win because of weapons or numbers. They won because they refused to break. They were the species that survived ice ages, wars and despair, and still looked up at the stars with hope. Hayes spoke again, his tone soft but unforgiving. Go home, he said. Tell your people what you saw here. Tell them Earth does not kneel. The transmission ended. Leaving only silence, the Arithos turned slowly, its engines flickering weakly as it retreated into the dark. Back on the Erebus, the crew stood in silence, watching the enemy flee. Some cheered, some cried. Others simply stared at the stars. Mira smiled tiredly. Is it over, sir? She asked. Hayes looked out at Earth below, its blue light reflecting in his eyes. For now, he said. But they will never forget this day. Across the galaxy, news of the defeat spread like fire. Worlds once under the Union's rule rose up in rebellion. Races who had lived in fear for centuries saw hope in the name of humanity. The Council of Worlds collapsed within weeks, its members turning against one another. The balance of power was shattered and a new era was born. Admiral Hayes walked alone to the viewing window once more. He watched the sun rise over the curve of Earth. Its light gentle and golden, he spoke softly, as if to the stars themselves. They called us savages, he said, but today, the savages taught the galaxy mercy. The smoke of battle drifted through orbit like gray clouds of memory. Where fire had burned, silence now ruled. Broken ships circled Earth like fading moons, the remains of an empire that once called itself eternal. And beneath them the planet turned slowly, calm and blue, untouched by the war that had shaken the stars. Inside the Erebus, the bridge lights dimmed to a soft glow. Crew members leaned back in their seats, faces marked with exhaustion and awe. They had survived what no one believed possible. Admiral Hayes stood by the window, hands clasped behind his back. Watching the curve of Earth below, he felt the hum of the engines beneath his feet. Steady and alive like the heartbeat of a sleeping giant. Captain Mira stepped forward quietly, her voice low. "Sir, all enemy signals confirmed withdrawn." Hayes nodded slowly. "Then it's done," he said. And history begins again. For a long moment no one spoke, only the distant echo of scanners sweeping empty space. Then Hayes turned toward his crew, his gaze calm but proud. "You fought for more than survival," he said. "You fought to remind the galaxy that freedom has a voice." On the surface of Earth, the first morning light rose across continents. Cities that had trembled in fear now filled with cheers. Children pointed at the bright trails in the sky, thinking they were stars being born. Old soldiers saluted toward the heavens, tears on their faces. The human race had stood together as one heartbeat, and the universe had heard it far away across alien worlds. Messages spread through every network. Worlds that once bowed to the Union now whispered the name of Earth with reverence. On distant stations, alien traders hung human flags beside their own. In royal halls once filled with arrogance, rulers spoke the word human with caution and respect. For the first time, the galaxy understood that power did not only mean domination. Sometimes power meant the courage to stand when everyone else had already fallen. Within weeks, emissaries from liberated worlds came to Earth. They did not come as conquerors, but as guests. They stood before the same council that had once argued in fear, and they bowed not in weakness but in gratitude. "Your defiance gave us strength," said one tall reptilian envoy. "You reminded us what freedom means." Hayes listened in silence. His heart heavy but proud, he did not smile. He simply answered, "Then use that freedom wisely, for we never want to fight like this again." The Terran fleet remained in orbit, not as an army of war, but as guardians. Ships that once roared with weapons now carried relief supplies to shattered colonies. Engineers repaired what the Union had destroyed. Doctors from Earth treated wounded aliens who once called humans barbarians. And in those small acts, humanity earned something greater than fear. They earned trust. At night, when the noise of reconstruction faded, Hayes would walk alone through the quiet halls of the Erebus. He would look out at the stars, countless and bright. He thought of the billions of lives now watching those same stars with hope instead of dread. And he whispered softly, "We never wanted to rule, only to belong." From that day onward, the galaxy changed. No longer did empires rule unchallenged. No longer did power mean cruelty. A new alliance began to rise, the conquered of free worlds, its first member Earth. At its heart stood a simple promise carved into the walls of the United Council. We asked for peace first, but we were ready when peace was denied. The galaxy would tell the story for generations. How one world defied extinction, how one fleet lit up the darkness, how humans, fragile yet unyielding, stood against the void and survived. And whenever the stars grew silent, someone would always whisper, "Do not provoke the children of Earth, for they have already defeated the impossible." Above the blue planet, the Erebus drifted quietly, her lights gleaming like a watchful star. Beneath her, the oceans shimmered, clouds drifted, and life continued. Admiral Hayes closed his eyes and breathed in the calm. The war was over, the dawn had come, and the galaxy would never again forget the name of humanity.